All right, guys, and we are live. We are back with our weekly show, Two Guys and Two Bards tonight. Welcoming in
Bards?
our special guest, 10 Man.
Wait, he's a bard?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
You didn't know
barding.
this? See ya.
Later.
Did he not? I love that he didn't read the title of the stream at all.
Yeah, it's one guy and two bards for the show tonight. No,
Yeah. Thane, you want to convert? We'll bring you to the Temple of the Bard.
Dude, you know what?
Thane, I know we have to always disagree, but I need you to stand with me on this one. You can't do it. You cannot do it.
Somebody clip that. There's two clips from the show now. Super wants to agree with me, and he told me I wasn't crazy.
No, I don't want to agree with you. I want you to agree with me.
This is all the validation I didn't get from my parents in my whole life. This is beautiful right now. I'm loving
it. But anyway, on to the regular introductions. 10 Man, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing so well. Seriously, y'all. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I'm having a wonderful night. I got to hang out with y'all for a couple minutes and really get to know you better. And I'm happy to be here and slowly taking over the space. We're all going to be bards. Everyone will be brought into the bardom by the end of the show.
Yes, the bardom. And as we usually do, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, okay. So I'm an adult, but I'm also a child. So I just drink adult apple juice, and now they make adult pineapple juice. And God, I just love it. I love ciders, and I'm person. So Super's like, he's a bard. Of course he likes, of course he likes. Yeah, that is what I am enjoying. So,
all right, moving right along. Super, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Still on dad duty, so I got the nectar of the gods tonight, Mountain Dew. So
Super always reminds me of that thing that we said. It's like, when you're a kid, you think coffee is the grown-up drink. When you're a teenager, you think alcohol is the grown-up drink. But then when you get to actually be an adult, you realize that water is the grown-up drink. That's what Super's reminding me of right now.
Except for the fact he's drinking Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I'm not as mature as I'm seeming right now. Next week, as long as nobody else gets COVID, like the daughter's gonna be heading out to grandma's, so I'll be the least adult person on the stream next week. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I should have lied because I'm from Tennessee and been like, moonshine.
Yeah, I can hook you up some of that. And how are you doing, Fane? What are you drinking?
Hey, I'm always doing good. I'm drinking this brand new stuff that I just found. It's Cutwater. It's a tequila Paloma. I put a little bit of mezcal in there as well, just because I like a little mezcal in my Paloma.
Spicy.
So a little spicy, a little smoky, something delicious. And I'm on my second one before the podcast. So be sure to tune into the after show. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And so for those who are not aware, we all hop into my Discord after the show, into the public voice chat there. And we just kind of hang out for anywhere from half an hour to 6 hours. I think that was our record. 4 to 6 hours, somewhere in there. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning. We were all pretty drunk, just having a blast. But definitely tune in there. You're welcome to come in, join the discussion. I'd just like to preface this. We don't always address everyone in chat because this is formed after a podcast. We've got our hour to 2 hours, and we want to keep the content moving, keep it fun and enjoyable for later postings on YouTube and all that stuff. So we will, if you have a good question, we'll try to work it in. We also try to answer anything we can by chat. But I'm Bardic. I'm doing great. So funny that Fane is now doing a canned cocktail, because that's what I've been working 12 hours a day on for the last 2 weeks. Is our distillery is blowing up in terms of canned cocktails, and we're trying to streamline that and get everything working. We thought we would have a couple case orders every week, and we're getting pallets of cases orders a week. So we're just trying to go crazy on that. But anyway, I have heard that there might be a small song going on here.
First off, I'm congratulations, man. Seriously,
Oh,
like
thank
following
you.
your passion and just as a bard, just getting that kind of alcohol out into the taverns. You know,
Mhm.
they need people
It's
like
almost like bards are just like really cool individuals
yeah.
that do
Shane,
awesome stuff.
Shane, do you want to go start our own show? Just call it Two Not Fucking Pussies, and
Says the guy enjoying a canned cocktail right now.
That's
Oh,
true. That's
no,
true.
it has nothing to do with canned cocktails. It has everything to do with the Bard.
Oh.
Also fair. Also
But,
fair. Yeah.
but like you're getting pallets ordered, so it's not just 10 times. You're getting the caravan 100 times your weight. You're getting the caravans out there
Yeah.
for the alcohol to the taverns. That's what we need right there.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so
we're not blitzing it. We're just sending it.
ooh.
Ooh, I see what we did there.
So last week when I found out I was
Let's
coming on the
just call
show, I started a Google Doc, and then I just was kind of goofing around, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna write like this ridiculous kind of song, and then it kind of turned into a rap for just the three of you and for me being on here. So here we go. Maybe I should drag it into here. Okay, this is better. Super, oh super, super. I'm talking Goku level, Super Saiyan. I'm just saying, got him steaming. No wait, he's vaping. Gathering certificates from wolves that I be slaying. Cause Super's mayor, I got taxes that need paying. I live in a divine node, cause I be praying. Caravan riding low, 100 times it be weighing. Super's a Jedi, watch him waving. You want to go home, man? Rethink your life. Become a master artisan of cooking. Grab a fork and a knife. Go live a life full, free of sorrow and strife. My red beard is manlier than yours. Look, it's staring at your wife. Speaking of wife, thank you so much, honey. Oh wow, thanks. Sorry, that was my girlfriend. Hey, look, it's Fane. You think darkness is your ally? Call him Bane. Fane's going rogue. David Blaine, or a hunter faking death. Call it Fane, or a maid with a rank 3 essence drain. His creative content strikes a mithril vein. No doubt a castle Fane will one day reign. And when it comes to Fane, I'm his biggest fan. Not his only fan, just his only fans. Look at these gains. Look at these brains. Look at these three turning up content. Lard, test 1, 2, 3, because these three go hard. Those were the two guys. Now let's get to the bard. His intellect and knowledge will catch you off guard, killing me softly. There goes half of my shards. Arctic's a dragon, leaving you scarred and charred. Have you running back from the white sparkly graveyard? You throw quite a party, hashtag diehard. A bearded Moriarty, baffling Scotland Yard, a content creator that I highly regard. Ashes is wildly ambitious and avant-garde. That's why I trust it in the hands of two guys and a bard.
Dude,
wow, okay.
That was well. We have our clip for this show. Dude, well
Bard,
done.
I'm
that was
taking care of
amazing.
editing this show, by the way.
Oh, okay. You'll take the easy one.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. So yeah, guys, huge shout out to 10 Man's Tavern, the Bard coming in, showing me what a bard is. I'm a college of the lore bard. What kind of college are you from?
I mean, I'm from the college of got a literal BFA in musical theater in real life and use it in weird ways. But I started writing that, and then I was like, because I was watching like so much, like I was like catching up on so much of your content on YouTube, and then I found that bit like Fane's girlfriend or wife just like comes on and like hands him something. I was like,
I totally forgot about that until you literally mentioned that right now. That's amazing.
Yeah. That was fun. Thanks for letting me do that, y'all.
No, that was great. That was amazing. I wasn't going into it. I was like, is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad? I was like, damn, that was really fucking good. So
it's fun. It was fun to do.
Wow, I just like
I know. I'm a little speechless.
I need a
I'm
second.
letting it soak in. Yeah, that was super good.
We need to get you. We need to get you some like a whole theme set up for bards behind you. Like
Some people. So I actually have my literal storage hiding under a quilt behind me. I moved into this house really recently, and I am like hoping to stay here for years and like be here for Ash's launch. So I am gonna like put like Ash's stuff behind me and other like Lazy Peon, other content creators that inspire me. So. Who's obviously loves Ashes as well and has done videos about it. But yeah, so that's the goal. And I know it's ridiculous and very like it's like there's nothing on my walls right now. But yeah.
No, I mean that was amazing. So why don't we move it right into? I think it's the topic we all want to talk about. And it's once again, what is this? Now our third week of New World talk, but the New World pushback. That was today, right? We got that info
That was
today.
This morning they pushed that back.
New World is pushed back from August 31st to September 28th. An extra, a little over 3 weeks.
So honestly, first question right off the bat that I want to throw to you guys, and I'm kind of saying this up. Who here is actually surprised? Are any of you guys surprised about this pushback?
That's my take tonight, by the way, is how sad I am that I'm not surprised.
It's
no. Definitely not surprised.
I don't know if I'm not surprised just because of game development in general, or if I'm not surprised because of the state of beta. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's like, oh, this is just expected in the space now, or if I actually think it like needs that much work to be done on it, like a whole another month.
Here's my thought. What can they really change in 3 weeks? Because I don't know if any of you watched my last video, but I made a video that said, like, here are all the things here. They're basically my problems with New World, but they were like, they're my problems with New World, but Ashes has already addressed them, and they're already like, this is not something we want to do with our game. And I think the big thing was the stuff that is wrong with New World is at its core, not small things they can fix overnight. This is stuff they should have fixed in the month between the last preview. It's like the risk reward factor. It's the fact that the quests are just terrible. They can't get a bunch of really good, interesting quests done in 3 weeks. Like, I don't know.
Are you saying to me that getting 20 salmon isn't a good quest, Bardic? Unbelievable. That was my favorite.
Oh, I thought all the town board quests were really fun and engaging. I hear that, like, it's not broken either. You can, like, it's just a nice, like, way to, level every once in a while, and you pick up a quest and do it while you can. You don't like focus on just like gathering a bunch of like tier 1 materials to level up or anything. Yeah,
it's so bad. I mean, I found out literally 30 minutes before this podcast that for our gaming community Axiom that I'm going to be kind of spearheading the crafting. And so now I've got 48 hours to come up with a system to help crafters funnel items and move materials. And I was sitting there and I didn't play too much of the beta. I played 2 days and I was like, all right, I don't want to burn myself out. Let's go ahead and just sort of move on with this. There's no guild bank or company bank in the game. That's a basic quality of life thing. I don't think that's like going beyond, but that's just ABC quality of life. So how much of these are going to be just like straight quality of life changes versus gold exploit and bug exploit changes?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Zillan said, but he made a comment recently that was like talking about like Zoom and how it was as shallow as New World. He made like this. I wish I had the clip, and it was like, oh, it was a huge diss, like just like kind of said it out of nowhere, and I was like, oh shit, but yeah, like that's the biggest thing. Like if you're Amazon and you have infinite money, how are you so less ambitious than Steven and Intrepid, right? You could do anything and you didn't, and now you just pushed it back just this small amount of time. I agree. Like you can't completely revolutionize your game in 3 weeks. So if people, this was my take on it today, if people had already asked off work, because it's already August, right? If they've asked off work for launch on August 31st, they have to like go into their boss and be like, hey, actually, I need to be off work. My vacation is now September 28th. So it's like, what can you really do in that time?
Yeah. The other thing I do want to bring up, and this is something Thane and I were struggling with because we're both going to PAX West.
This is great news for us, by the way, guys. I'm sorry to everyone out there.
We're actually really happy right now. We are literally like, we're talking like, should we buy gaming laptops so we can like kind of play in our downtime at PAX West? And on that note, any viewers, any content creators that are going to PAX West, definitely hit us up. We'll be there. Happy to go get drinks, hang out at the venue, coffee, beers, whatever. Definitely let us know. But yeah, so I am actually wondering if that was a small thought of theirs. Like, they want all the big content creators to be able to play. I
don't know how many are going to PAX. How many big content creators are still going to PAX?
I mean, this is the first time to be back to me, if you like, I wouldn't say the biggest are that concerned about it, But a lot of the medium-sized, the 1,000+
Yeah.
content creators were probably
Okay.
like, "This is my opportunity to get back out there, get more people under my name." And you want everyone there playing, able to play. You don't want people like thinking about PAX West while you have your game launch.
Well, that being said, I can't tell you how many amazing games launched during the last 3 TwitchCons. Literally on TwitchCon weekend, everyone found a way to like launch some game. It was insane. Red Dead Redemption 2, there was a Dark Souls. So I don't know if the game devs are really looking for that necessarily. I think it's just an added side bonus. I think that they probably realized how bad their game actually is.
But what can they fix? That's what we're asking. Can they actually
Well, there's
fix
some
anything?
quality of life stuff that they could fix.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't take that hard to iterate upon.
I think the majority of it is, I mean, they probably allocated themselves a month to fix any bugs, exploits, anything like that that came up. But even just watching a few different YouTube videos like Sir Medieval, and I mean, there's 2 other ones that I watch. I haven't been in the New World space very long, so I can't remember their names. But some of the bugs that they have been talking about in their videos are ones that we never saw. I mean, there's a mission board like glitch exploit essentially where you turn in the same quest over and over and over again. Like you literally just spam click it. Like somebody got to 60 in a couple hours. Which I never saw or heard anything about that until beta was already closed down. And then all of the other exploits, the stuff with the camping that we were talking about, like the death spawning. So I think what they're realizing is I don't think we're really going to get a lot of QOL stuff. If we do, I don't think they needed to extend it. I think they need to get the game out and they can do small polishes as it's released and just add it into the Tuesday patch. But as far as like, I think why it got pushed out and what they're going to be working on is the balancing of the leveling, making sure that there's as few holes as possible. Because I think one of the good things that came from the beta is people got in and they min-maxed the shit out of it and they broke it essentially because the intended leveling path within New World is not just grind to 60. It's 60 and gather and craft and like side missions and faction missions and level up your weapons. Like it's supposed to be like this all-inclusive leveling experience, which is something that as a community we have been begging for years. Because in WoW it's like, yeah, just get to max level, then you can do content. And so one thing that Ashes is trying to do, one thing that New World is trying to do is bring that content back to leveling. And when you have those holes and you have those exploits and you have those min-maxing methods that allow you to bypass all of the experience of leveling, that very quickly becomes meta, and whatever is meta is then what is expected by anybody who takes the game seriously. And so I think they're trying to patch those holes, and I think they're realizing, oh shit, there were a lot more holes than we realized. I really think that's it. But can they do that in 7 weeks? Maybe. I mean, I'd like to think that they allocated themselves enough time, or maybe they're just trying to get it into a good enough space. I don't know. Like I'm starting to feel like New World is the game of just get it good enough. Just get it good enough to go live.
Yeah, I actually wanted to know y'all's opinion on that. In regards to their tweet today about, I have it up here and ready, about like wanting to have the best launch they could have. What's y'all's take on like having to be perfect at launch, or this is that a new thing with MMOs, or this sense of beta can last forever? Because I look back to something like Final Fantasy 14, which obviously had, this turbulent and crazy first years of its existence, and then slowly built its way up, especially if you are with Amazon Studios, which has not, I did say Envy earlier, and I shouldn't have said Envy. They have quite a bit of money compared to like a startup studio. But
they have spent
and they spend a lot of money on it. But like, does it have to be perfect at launch, and are they going to keep bumping it back a month until it is, or at what point do y'all think like it just has to, like, let's get it out there, so we can keep making adjustments as we go?
So I've brought up this point before, and I think New World is a little different, but Ashes of Creation cannot afford a bad launch. The amount of time you have to invest in your world, in your server, to level up, to progress your nodes, to do all this stuff, it's a huge amount of time invested. And if all that is lost because your server dies because there's not enough population to sustain it, you are also just going to quit the game. Like Ash the Creation cannot afford a bad launch to the point where they can iterate on it and work on it and do this endless beta until they get it good, until they do a full revamp like Final Fantasy, and people come back in and play and be like, oh, this is great. Ash the Creation cannot do that. New World is pretty similar to Ashes. However, I don't think it's going to have the same tie to your character, to your exact thing. I think it can somewhat afford to lose players, to lose people, as long as they have some players and dedicated people. I think they can afford to just kind of release it and then do a lot of changes to a degree. If it's a complete failure of a launch, the game fails. That's just it. It's not like Final Fantasy where people can just play it because they enjoy it, or casuals can play it as they enjoy it. I think you need a certain amount of people dedicated and playing for, I would say, at least 3 to 4 months by the time they can add in new content to bring back another little wave of people saying, hey, let's come back in. So that's where I'm at, is like, if this game only has enough content for a month of like decent, like not necessarily like no life play, but of someone who is dedicated and plays a lot of the game, there's only a month of that for them, I think the game will just die. If they can push that out to about 3 months of content, I think then they can, add in new content and just keep riding that up and down wave of slowly rising.
Yeah. I mean, so, and I want to bring this around. I think this connects really well to something Super said earlier. I think that as consumers, and especially as content creators, which we're essentially consumers plus free marketing, we need to not allow these gaming companies to do these two things. What one is what you said, the uh do we just launch it because it's close enough? It's not good, just close enough. Because we're seeing that a lot. You're seeing, like, I mean, the big example is DayZ. Um, but there's also Last Oasis. There's a smattering of them. Go on Steam, click the early access tab. It's anything that's charging you anything. Allowing these games to say, we're in beta. Can you please pay us now for this game? And we'll eventually get around to fixing it. I see that just absolutely akin to something like Chronicles of Valeria. I think we need to, as a community, as a gaming community, say, you want to sell us the game? You need to give us the game when it is ready to go. When you're proud of the base game, and yeah, then we'll be okay paying a subscription or paying for more content expansions or more iterations upon stuff. Stop releasing these kind of half-assed games. And then to go back to Super's point, I think we need to push back against games that push back. I think so. And I'll tell you my personal story with New World. I was excited for New World. I played last year during the whatever you want to call it, beta preview, whatever they actually titled it. I think I canceled my pre-order back then because I lost faith in a game company where the developers said, "Oh yeah, this game's ready to launch. This is what everybody wants." And the community's resounding, overwhelming feedback was no. That just sort of shows me how out of touch these developers are. I think we
Well,
need to get back to releasing games that are fully fleshed out, ready to go, not a beta, and stop pushing it back. Stop promising dates and pushing it back. Know
Yeah.
when you're going to hit a date
I,
and then do it. And it's like, well, how do
I'm
you do that in gaming? It's really hard to develop that way. It's literally every console game that's ever existed in the world. They never push their dates back. They just release.
I guess the question is, are you okay with what Ashes is doing in terms of doing dates with the open development cycle? Because I am very much for this open development cycle. I know it's kind of hectic. I know, like, we went into this month long. People are like, oh, it's going to be a month. We're going to play for a month. And then it's like, no, we're still Alpha 1. This is still a
I mean,
development cycle. Like, yeah, this is normal. This is to be expected. Things are going to go wrong. We're going to get DDoS. We're going to have security issues. We're going to push this stuff back. And this is just to be expected. Um, but I guess the thing is, Ash as a creation is basically doing what most other games have done, with a small degree of more open content, a little bit more open communication, but they're still doing like this open alpha development. Like, that's kind of what other companies have done. They just haven't marketed it in the right way. And that's what Ashes is doing, right? They're
well, but
marketing it.
it's not even the marketing of it. They're saying this is like a preview beta. and then it's still releasing. Like we get into the preview beta or whatever the preview is before the release date even exists. With Ashes, they're not saying, because and I hate to say this, right? And this is probably a bad opinion, and Super's going to come down on me because every time I say something slightly controversial, that big red beard comes wagging at me. But I think that you can, as a consumer, wag it, Super, wag it. He's just waiting. Look at him.
He's
It's
already
so sick.
stroking it.
It's so
He's already
sick. I'm
stroking
prepared.
it.
But I think as a consumer, you can differentiate between a $500 thing that the company has said, this is an alpha, this is for alpha testing, this is not a finished product, this is like 3% of the game, versus someone who's like, oh, this is an early access, beta, alpha, pre-alpha, whatever you want to call it, but we're going to charge you $40 on Steam. I think when you charge $40 on Steam, that's a game retail price. And I think you're charging a game retail price, but when you push it on Steam, you're pushing essentially an unfinished product. I think when you put it on a publisher, it would be like putting a half-finished car on a dealership lot and just being like, why don't you pay me the price today and then we'll finish the car down the road. Versus coming into someone's garage.
2 points.
I'm ready for it.
That literally happens with cars, by the way.
Rarely.
No,
Rarely.
I mean, at the high end, but it happens. You buy your car before it's even built. I mean,
but they've built one of those cars before, Super. They've built a lamp. Like, you want an Aventador? They've built Aventadors before. They know how to do it. They have all the pieces back here. They'll just customize the seats and shit for you. Like, they'll do that. These guys don't even know what they're gonna do. They don't even know where this is gonna go.
Sure. I'm just poking a hole in your car analogy.
I know, because you always do this, and I was prepared for it, and you knew it was gonna get me riled up.
So I think honestly the biggest point where I have pushback with what you're saying is taking it back to what you were initially saying, is that I don't know, and maybe I'm narrow-minded in this, but I don't know if it's necessarily fair to say that as content creators or community or whatever, we need to push back on pushbacks while at the same time we're also expecting them to have a polished game. I think Amazon Studio, this pushback actually showed me that, well, hold on.
He's talking about a different type of pushback. Talking about pushbacks of what we're saying we want, as opposed to pushbacks of dates.
Well, no,
right?
Super's talking about us pushing back against them pushing the date back, is what Super's referring to.
Push it real good. Ding, ding, ding. No, yeah, it is confusing. I want to let you finish.
Pushback against the pushback of the pushback.
Yes. So it's, I don't know if it's fair to say that, like, okay, I get what you're saying, but at some point you need community feedback. And what I recognize right now, and even though I think New World hasn't gone as far as WoW into listening to the wrong people, I think New World has actually struck a fairly decent balance of, okay, the alpha a year ago, the alpha preview a year ago, everybody was like, we want PvE content, we want more, you have no end game, this game is not ready. Because if you remember with the preview, the speculation was that the game was going to release roughly 2 to 3 months after that preview.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody was like, hell no, this shit's not ready. So they push back. Now with this one, they allowed a lot more people got in on this one. We saw this with the addition of servers. They thought they were good from the numbers that they saw from the alpha a year ago. And now they're like, oh shit, no, there's actually a lot more hype. And again, going back to all of the feedback that they gained from that, if they didn't push back, I would argue and say that they are more on the side of releasing something that's just good enough. But what I see them doing right now is that they're actually taking the time that they need. It's the same thing that we have said. Granted, it's in different phases of development, and I understand that it's not going to match directly, but it's the same positive side that we have given Ashes by saying, yes, if it needs to be pushed back, push back. And
I'm going to counter you here. Go ahead, but I'm going to count. I've got a strong counter for this.
Go ahead.
Okay, here's the strong counter. Ashes has said we need more time on development because we're in early alpha, and let's take the phases out of it. Let's take the all the phases of development, all that out of it. Ashes has said we need more time, and the community said, yeah, no problem. New World has said we need more time, and the community is kind of giving them a little shade for that. The difference is New World has set release dates. They've said at some point, we think our game is ready enough to release by this day. Oh no, we're going to push it back a year. Oh no, we're going to push it back a month. If you're this unsure, and having to push your game back a year should make you understand that you're pretty goddamn unsure. If you have to push back that much multiple times, stop setting a release date. Set the release date like, you ever go to the movies? It's like, when's this movie going to come out? Fall 2022, summer 2021. I mean, they're setting they're giving themselves a little wiggle room. Setting hard dates and then forcing a pushback from a base marketing perspective is a bad look. It's a bad look, and it's going to get you negative feedback.
Yeah, and that's why I was so surprised today. Already, I saw Asmongold and SFan and CoCarnage, all the people I usually completely agree with. They all tweeted like so glad you're doing this, and I was surprised because I was like, wait. I know it's actually such a. I wrote down 4 different points while each of you were talking. It's such a complex and convoluted system because I made a joke about push, but it's like we want you to listen, but we don't want you to listen too much. You need to give us a game, and it needs to be ready to go, but also stop telling us when the date is. And it's like it is hard because I see both sides of it, and it is difficult, and MMOs are giant. But I wrote down this thing. I actually had this idea for a while. And this is like super weird 10-man Bard idea, but I just wish games didn't, and I know this is, will you not be able to ask off for work, it'd be very hard for content creators. I wish instead of keep disappointing me about the launch of your game, that you took as long as you want. And when it was ready, and you just launched the game on a random day. This does 2 things. 1, you can always be ready. You never have to push it back. 2, you make sure that it is top notch. And 3, for server stability. People wouldn't all log in at the very same second and crash the servers because they would find out through Twitter over like 2 hours, or people would be at work. And yes, world first raters and hardcore players are like, that's not fair. I wouldn't be on. I wouldn't be ready. I wouldn't be my server first 60 or whatever. But like, I thought about that idea for a while. And I originally said it in August of 2019 to some friends because I knew like that launch day was going to be so nuts. And a bunch of friends that actually played in 2004 and 2005 said, what was so cool is because everyone's computer downloaded the physical version of World of Warcraft at a different speed, servers didn't crash because people were logging on at different times, like throughout a 4-day period, like after they would go home from work and like get the game. So like that has existed actually before. So I know there's some takes on it, but like
I think it's a super cool idea, but like you would get so many people so pissed off because, as has been said, people want to take time off of work. They like, especially with an MMO, right? It's one thing to launch like a first-person shooter game or a MOBA or some kind of like competitive game. It's another thing to launch an MMO where your time invested actually matters, right? Because then say, okay, you had a crazy work week and you couldn't play like I've had the last 2 weeks. I've barely been able to make content or videos or anything or play. If I had to do that on Ash's launch, I'd be so mad. I'd be so fucking mad. I'd be like, fuck. I'm so far behind.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying that does, as ridiculous as an idea, which has pros and cons, it does solve the issue of never disappointing me, and it's really ready when you launch. But yeah, I know that wouldn't work. I do hope that a developer someday does do that.
Well, as I said, I think you can do it for like an Overwatch style game.
Valheim kind of did that, right? Valheim sort of did that. I literally found Valheim randomly on Steam on launch day, and then all of a sudden within a couple hours we had 20 people in Axiom playing it, and I said, I wonder if anyone on Twitch is caught up to this game. And I log on to Twitch and there's like 60,000 people in the category. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't hear a word of this game from anywhere.
That's true.
And they created it. I think you're going to have an issue with the marketing side. Publishers aren't going to like that because you're not going to sell copies. They're not going to get into the black as quickly. I love the idea on a base level. I love the idea on a base level. These big streamers coming out in support, I think once again is fine, right? That's what they do because Asmon sits in his room and plays games, and Esfon sits in his room and plays games, and CoCarnage does the same.
Right.
I think that where it's hurt is kind of what you said earlier. The guy that took August 31st off of work, the average person, because Asmon, what he pays for New World is literally the exact same as what that guy pays for New World, and there's a lot more of that guy than there is of Asmon.
Right.
And so doing these things, I mean, a lot of people went into work today and said that vacation that I have planned, we have to reschedule it, and they all rescheduled it to the same date. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people, there were a lot of meetings with bosses today and a lot of emails shot up. That's for sure.
Yeah, remember how I told you I was taking my family to Miami? Well, the Airbnb, they had the wrong dates, and now we got to go at the end of September. Sorry, boss. You know, like yeah, I mean, try to cover at work.
I think this kind of goes back to a little bit of what you were saying though, Fane, as well, is like, do you want a good game or do you want a happy community? Because if a good
Both.
game if a good game leads to a happy community, then I would rather be disappointed now than on launch.
But what I'm saying is that
yeah.
it's not mutually exclusive. You can
Yeah.
release a good game without pushing back a hard date. They didn't say late summer. They didn't say fall. They said August 31st.
Well, I think
you can do that without.
Okay,
they're not mutually
so from something that you've even said about Ashes, though, is
Mhm.
Steven said we will let you know in fall. And then literally the last day of fall came up, and you've criticized.
I've been
well,
very critical of that.
that's what I
I've been
want to
very
bring
critical
up.
of that.
You both
Yeah.
said something here, and I don't think a happy community has anything to do with these dates or a good game. I mean, a good game is important, right? But we have a happy Ashes community, and the game's not even close to out. They're pushing back dates, all that. So the issue here is not that they're pushing back, it's what they've done in between the pushbacks. It's the communication, it's the development, it's the fact that they promised us an official Discord and didn't. We still don't have an official New World Discord. It's the fact that like there's no communication. It's just like they're like, yeah, no, we're developing a community-oriented product, but we don't care about you guys. Basically, is what they've said to us.
Bartik, in one of your recent YouTube videos, you also talked about how the servers came up early, so they didn't get to do that developer meeting. They were supposed to have like
I think they still did it, but yeah.
But you're already in the game, and tons of people were in the game, and all the big streamers had to jump right in because they want, you know, the audience wants to see it. Yeah, like making sure, like I that was one of the best points from that video. I was like, yeah, that you want more of that. You want more of that from New World and from Amazon. And if you just mess it up, even if it happens, it doesn't happen in the same capacity. So yeah, for sure.
It's for me, and this will be a personal thing because I know Super disagrees with me on pretty much everything that I say. To me, it feels in the same way that when Steven said late September, it will announce our Alpha 1 dates, and it was literally late fall, the last day of fall. It feels disingenuous, and it's hard to have faith in a company that has not released anything. Not that they haven't tried. They've tried a lot of things. They just haven't had a successful launch yet. But for them to say, here's a preview, here's a release date. Oh, just kidding. We're so out of touch with our community that we need to push it back a year. Okay, here's a beta and here's a release date. Oh, wait, our game's still super, super broken. So here's another release date. Like if I had a normal 9 to 5, I would not be taking September 28th off because mathematically, it's just not going to happen. I'll see you guys October 14th.
Yeah, and you're right. Like they should have just been like this fall, like this is our beta. Please help us. And they got those millions of game hours in, right? Like they actually got it. They didn't have to put an August 31st date when they started the beta. They just chose to. You're right. They could have just started the beta and let it run for as long as they wanted. You're in control. And you don't have to make any date until you have all the feedback back from your beta and then pick September 28th.
Yeah, say fall 2021. This game is going to release. We're ready to release fall 2021. We're going to do a beta, then we're going to do a last sweep, and then we'll give you guys the exact launch date. They've had a year of pre-orders. So many people still had their pre-order, and then they could have also launched it up till December 21st.
So how much of it is a balance between answering all the questions for everybody who's saying New World win, New World win, New World win, and I mean, I feel like
when it's ready. Steven's had a real hard time doing that. When it's ready.
I we don't disagree there. Like I'm not saying, but they're in a I think it's easy for us to sit here and look at it from the different perspectives that we're looking at it, when in reality to me, and I'm not a New World simp. I went into it with zero expectations. I literally just recently started watching videos on the game because I was like, hey, this is fun. I think I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously. So I'm just looking at it purely from trying to sympathize with them just a little bit. And I think that they are trying to react to the community. And I think that's why we have this year-long pushback. Or a comment over here, the game was supposed to be ready in 2022 or 2020. Like, Ashes is technically supposed to be released by now as well, but APOC. So I mean,
December 2018.
Happens.
Yeah,
shit happens. Like, I mean, again, and all of us have said this in previous shows. I would rather them push something back and it be ready because of the pushback than to release something half-assed. And so I don't know at what point we've now flopped to the other side of that.
Because it's
no.
Is it because
we're asking for both. Super, I've said this. It's not mutually exclusive. I want a finished product. I want a great game, right? Release it when it's truly ready. But, like Timman said, we could have a beta for however long and just give a very vague release date. And then when you know that your game is ready, when you know it's ready, then release it. I mean, they're still working on cosmetic shop stuff.
Well, yeah.
And guess what? If you released it, if you're like, I could release this game today, but we're going to now announce a launch date. We're going to release it in a month. You know what you have? You now have given your developers 4 weeks to start iterating upon the next batch of content.
And that's my issue. My issue is not the pushback, not the fact that they're listening to the community and saying, yeah, this game isn't ready. It's the fact that they're pushing it back by 3 weeks. What the issues we have with this game are not something that can be fixed in 3 weeks. They should have been asking for our feedback a long time ago. They should have been developing a community a long time ago. It's something your wife said earlier, like, we've all bought into Ashes. We're invested in Ashes. They haven't done any of that. Like, we have not, like, when I'm talking about investment, I don't just mean money. I'm talking about time, passion, support, the community and friends we found around this game. Like, that is what Steven is not just building a community, right? He's not just developing a game, he's building a community. And that's something we're all buying into. That's why we're saying, yes, wait, I don't want this community ruined by a terrible game. I can wait for a better game because we still have this awesome community that we're a part of. So that's where I'm coming from and saying they've done none of this. And then they're now pushing back this game by 3 weeks. What the fuck is changing in 3 weeks? Zero.
Yeah.
And some bugs.
The best way to segue this back to Steven and Ashes is, I love this discussion because I hope that Steven, I mean, I'm sure they're discussing it internally, but I really hope Ashes and Steven and Margaret and everybody learn from this. Like, I
think they already knew.
And they knew, yeah, but I'm just talking about, like, not cornering yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know I made that cool, like, surprise release. I love that idea. Obviously, I don't want Ashes to do that because I'm so excited. But, like, I don't need to know the release date for Ashes until fairly soon before it, right? I don't think any of us do. Whatever it is, I just think there's so many ways to not corner yourself. Like, as we get closer, right? Like, beta 1, beta 2, we're in beta 2. Until we're all certain, and you said it, Bartik, especially because it's Intrepid's first real first game, it needs to nail it. They need to nail the launch. Please don't corner yourself, Steven. Like, just we're patient. We're going through beta 2. It's getting close. And when we really feel ready, it's like, all right, Steven, let's get a date. But, like, we don't need that until like the very end, because the last thing we want is what just happened in New World to happen at the end of beta 2 for Ashes, where people just keep saying, like, it bumped back 3 weeks. Yeah.
When you give us a date, give us a date, and that's the date, right? Yeah. It shouldn't be changing because, and I guess this is the point that I didn't really make. So I get why Super's kind of disagreeing with me, but and I think Bartik drilled it. I would have more faith if they pushed back 3 months.
Yeah.
If you push back 3 months, I would have more faith than when you push back 3 weeks. Because you took you said, I'm going to take a PvP game and turn it into PvE literally in a year, which is very difficult to do. And Zillan always says this game's about as deep as a frisbee, right? Like
Yeah.
it's literally
What?
literally
What's that sign there?
Oh, hey, I wasn't gonna say anything, but we are about an hour in, y'all, and we got to get to our sponsorships. So you wrote 10 Man, it's fine. I actually go by this name here. This is my name. And listen, y'all, if you don't know yet about Raid Shadow Legends, my name is Zillan, and I only do Raid Shadow Legends streams. And you guys, it's the best game. I used to do some Ashes stuff. Now I do Raid Shadow Legends. And I had to shout them out. I'm required.
Dude, I hear only very special people get sponsored by them. Like you have to be a premium like streamer, really well sponsored.
Yeah. It took a lot to secure this sponsorship, and of course I have to shout them out. And that was that's the only requirement I have to do tonight. I didn't want to forget to do that.
We've got our second clip of the night. Stop selling out, Zillan.
Maybe Zillan's going to be a Raid Shadow Legends streamer. We don't know. Maybe his new calling.
What if first off, I love you, Zillan. Second off, imagine if he just gets thousands of views and becomes one of the Raid Shadow Legends. That clip might age very well.
No, what I would say is like even if he got that, I bet he'd still convert over to Ashes. That's the dedication and passion we have in this community. Is like, I mean, there are probably better ways to grow as a content creator than streaming in Ashes for the last year or two for like a lot of these people. Like you talk about Samurg, who streamed every day for a year only in Ashes of Creation. Like there are better ways to grow, but it's the passion that matters. It's amazing. Like, and that's the community we have. That's the community that Steven and Intrepid and Maggie have all helped foster, and Toast, Toast, the unsung hero that answers everyone's questions and deals with all the stupid shit. But yeah, and that's what New World needs to, take sight of. That's what any developer needs to take sight of. It's what Blizzard lost. Blizzard no longer has any kind of community. And then they're like, well, why are people mad at us? Why are you shit talking us? It's like, well, you haven't done anything to support your community.
Well, and we can talk about that as a gaming studio as well. That gaming studio is falling apart. If anyone ever says the WoW killer again, I'm just going to laugh in their faces because WoW is clearly the WoW killer. Oh my God.
I mean, it's still the WoW. Yeah, there is a WoW killer. It's a thing. It's just them. It's them. It's not your themselves. New game. It's them. It's them. I definitely looked the other day at at Steven's food truck that he said. Oh, that was great.
I think that's just still the biggest dick move of all time. I mean, 10 Men, I don't know if you heard about that, the food truck Steven sent?
No, I saw the picture and everything he did, and then somebody secretly from Blizzard, I read their post back to it. They were so great. But he didn't post anywhere about that though. He didn't make any.
He just did it.
He just did it. He did it for fellow developers.
I mean, he knew it was going to come out, but
of course it's always going to come out. But just
Steven's a salesman. He knew what he was doing. Yeah. But it's still huge. But it's also something like what you get. That's a risk for him as well. Goes both ways.
It's taking a side, but I think it's taking the side of public opinion, right? So I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily that. But I mean, I say it's public opinion. I'm not sure if it's public opinion. I would love for somebody to debate me as to why cube crawls are a positive thing within a gaming company. But
it's interesting that you brought that up because we read out first off, whoever was working at Blizzard felt it necessary to use a secret, like brand new account.
Oh, of course.
To even say it, which was so sad. And even after that person had received like free lunch that day, and they were truly grateful, towards the end of the post, they used "and to receive this from a competitor." And I actually just wrote down that word again because, and I'm so glad you brought it up because like right now, I see so many videos that are like Pantheon versus Ashes or New World versus Ashes or New World versus WoW. And it's like everybody, and it's clearly even the developers at Blizzard, consider Steven a competitor instead of a collaborator. Like I've heard this term so many different places, but a rising tide lifts all ships. Like we want
Roll Tide
World of Warcraft to be good. Like if they get their shit together and 9.2 is great, if Endwalker comes out for Final Fantasy 14 and it's great, if New World is wonderful, and I know I've heard y'all on your YouTubes also say things like this, and I love it, and that's why I want to bring it up, is like a rising tide lifts all ships. Like if New World's great, which is why I want it to be great, selfishly for Ashes, but like if New World's great and a ton of people are playing it when Ashes comes out, and they're like, oh, New World was cool, but like I love how ambitious Ashes is. They seem to have taken this to a whole nother level. Then that's like more of a chance for Ashes to succeed. And I feel like Steven knows that, but that person wrote even in the thank you note to him from that. And so crazy to see this from a competitor, which is just such an interesting insight to how Blizzard it had the ideology in their culture, right? Of like, that guy's the enemy, which is so weird.
Yeah. And we've used this, Bardic and I have used this example many times on stream. We've talked about it privately, we've talked about it publicly, but being in the restaurant industry for many years, I mean, I'm sure we have a couple decades between the two of us. When you look at like, if you open up a restaurant on Main Street and it's you and a bunch of dentist office and lawyers, you're going to get some people to come in. Fine. If there are 20 restaurants in that downtown, everybody comes down there because they don't know where they want to go. So competition isn't necessarily bad. WoW isn't competition for Ashes. Final Fantasy 14 isn't competition for New World. You know what's competition for all the MMOs? Fortnite.
Yeah.
Valorant. Overwatch. Apex. The game, it's converting those players into people that will love MMOs. Because I know, being in some of the older demographic of gaming, I remember playing platformers into shooters, and then MMOs was where I stopped because I found my love. That was MMOs was where it was at. So how do we get these battle royale and these shooter people to come in and start loving MMOs as well? How do we get these people into the community? Because you look at people, you look at all the people that outside of Asmongold that Steven went and did all the influencer stuff. Tim got big from Overwatch. Shroud got big at anything where you put a reticle over somebody's head and shot it. Like, I mean, you converted a government robot who's great at shooters into loving, but all these guys grew up on MMOs. That's their love. This is their job and what they're good at, but this is their love.
MMOs and action RPGs. A lot of them are very passionate about their Path of Exile or whatever. It's but it is more than that. But I do want to refute you a little bit there, 10 Man, and just say there's not like competition is good. I do view all of my fellow content creators as competition, but there's nothing wrong with being professional or friendly competition. You can boost each other up, right? We can push each other to be better. But the fact of the matter is, there's been no competition for Blizzard for so long. I mean, even now, there's not really. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 is about it. Is the only game that even comes close to being, a half decent MMO. We just don't have good MMOs. So, competition. But also collaboration. I think it's a combination of the two. And yes, we are vying for views from each other, for example, but we can still lift each other up, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, hey, you're my competition, but we can be friendly and we can share information. You can give me constructive feedback. You can say, hey, here's what's wrong with me. Here's what's wrong with you. We can just have an open conversation about it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is this idea that we can't have open information. We can't have a very logical conversation about here's what's wrong with you. Here's what do you see wrong with me? Okay, here's how I would fix you. Here's how you would fix me, vice versa. And you don't listen to all of it, right? But we were talking about Zillion earlier. Zillion taught me a lot about being better on YouTube. I was very scripted. I had a script that I read, and now I still have kind of like I script more than Zillion does, but it's not scripted that you notice. It's just bullet points, and then I just talk on the bullet points. But like the bullet points is like a notepad that's just scrolling, and it's just like I'll just like kind of go through all of those. But I learned so much from Zillion, and he is my competitor, yes, but he's also a really good friend, a really good collaborator. So that's the way I look at it.
It's not a zero-sum game. Content creation, as well as game development, as well as most of these things, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not that when Tenman gets a view, Bardic loses a view. When Fane gets a view, Super loses a view. It's not that way because and we're not on all the time. Like Bardic said, I'm working with Zillin right now. We're doing this kind of split YouTube thing, and we're leveraging his audience into mine. And then in the same way that he's helping me a lot with YouTube, he's probably in my DMs every other day, like, how do I do this on Twitch? How do I do this on Twitch? And whereas, he's got 1.5K YouTube, I'm at like 300. He's at like 500 on Twitch, I'm at like 1.2K. We use each other's strengths, and we lift each other up, and I think that Bardic and I, it's why Bardic and I get along so well. We totally agree on that. And then Super shows up because he can fucking just rail on Fane for 2 hours every single week and get all his frustrations out. It's perfect. It's amazing. I love it.
I love both those points, and I love what you said, Bartik, because competition breeds excellence. That is a term that I've heard before, and the way you look at it is like the other side of that same coin. Because we do there wasn't somebody challenging Blizzard for like decades, just pushing them to be better and better and better. Because there was just like the biggest fish in the pond for so long. So I agree.
They got complacent.
They got complacent instead of like competition breeding that excellence. So I do see it that way too, and on the like that other side of the same coin when we have these discussions, because we do I want to see 20 MMOs that are insanely good, and it will just if we it'll take quite a long time to get there from where we are now, but that's like the dream and that I have, because it will create insane competition. Like I want to see Path of Exile make a really fast-paced MMO. Just because I love MMOs and I want to
be fun,
or World of Diablo. Like I kept always saying,
oh my god,
World of Diablo felt like
World of StarCraft.
StarCraft.
World of StarCraft. Like I would have been maybe they considered it to be competition internally of their own MMO, and maybe that's what New World just thought with the Lord of the Rings. But I was like, wait a minute, no, it will just bring different types of people from different parts of fantasy, different parts of nerdom. Our whole community would be able to have some place you could go that was your MMO, and there's so many people playing MMOs. It's 20 incredibly competitive things that they get nuance. They have their amazing community, and if that's what you want, something exists out there for you. Because right now, I feel like I'm one of the people that's not super excited about New World, but of course, there's so little to even grasp onto. So many different people from different parts of MMOs are trying to be at least part or affiliated in New World in some way. Mm-hmm. I think that's because we barely, in my opinion, tip of the iceberg on what MMOs could be, and their interactiveness and everything how far we could go. So.
Well, and I think that competition breeding excellence is why I'm actually excited, even though we don't know much about it, for Riot's new MMO. Mm-hmm. Because listen, I don't play MOBAs.
And
Palia. I'm not a League of Legends guy. And Palia is an interesting side thing. We definitely Palia is like MMO light, so you can bring the casuals into the genre before you really make them go off in the deep end. Like build your farm and now manage your node, right? But you look at a company like Riot,
the MMO that gives you a hug while you're playing. Whereas
that's what
that's what everyone wants. Super.
Whereas all
everyone wants a hug.
All the other ones hug you while they're shoving the knife in your back.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is not very interested in MMOs. I actually think it's because she finds them to be quite daunting, and she'd love them if she got into them, because we play a lot of games together, but not MMOs. Well, Palia, I think it could be the bridge where she's we watched that video together, and she was like, "Oh, I'd play that," because she plays Animal Crossing. And it reminds
me. Yes. Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. How many people I play I did not think I was going to play as much Animal Crossing as I did. I played hundreds of hours because I was on unemployment, right at the beginning of COVID, and all of my friends were playing. Friends that don't play games. They were all playing, and I was just like, yeah, we're going to do this. We join each other's different things. I created a separate island on the Southern Hemisphere so we could all come and fish and all this other stuff. And it was so fun to play with people that aren't this hardcore player. And this is what I'm actually hoping Ashes does right, is get the freehold system down well enough that a casual player can just enjoy building up their freehold, making their processing or processing system, breeding animal, whatever they choose to do with their freehold. They
Mhm.
can do that, do some small forays to the main city, some small forays when a group brings them together to like go farm some stuff they need for their freehold. Like that is what Ashes needs to do right to be massively successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at a game like the game that I loved and followed and was super excited for it to be successful, and it wasn't. And stupid Fame now realizes what they said. Wildstar. They said the whole time, we want to build an MMO for the 1%. And it's like, well, yeah, but that means that only 1% of players are going to actually enjoy this MMO because everyone thinks they're hardcore and most of them aren't. Right. And
That is
so,
the truest statement ever.
oh,
No one knows what
it's
hardcore is until you have an alarm set every 2 hours. Like you're like, I'm gonna go to bed, but your alarm is set for 2 hours so you can wake back up and take over someone else's shift. And then you sleep in 2 hour shifts because that's who you have. That's hardcore.
yeah, exactly. Like when you learn basic Korean because the other guy's like playing with you and he's taking it over, and then you've got this guy in France taking over third shift. Like that's what hardcore MMOing is. And so I think that, going back to what Ten Man said, like that Palia is an amazing,
Yes.
amazing opportunity to jump somebody from Animal Crossing for all intents and purposes to Palia, and they're going to say,
And then
"Oh,
Palia
is really
to
fun.
New
I
World.
wish I could do a little bit more Palia to Ashes." And it's like you can do a little bit more, but you can do a lot more as well. So however far you want to go is how far you want to go, because MMOs are daunting. It's why people don't jump into MMOs 8 years late.
Yeah.
Because they're so far behind the curve.
Here's the other thing that comes down to us as a community to welcome in and support those types of players. This is like we can't go into Ashes saying only the 1% wins, right? We need to say, hey, we can come in and see all these different viewpoints. This guild can work with all these, we'll call them, I don't know what you want to call them, people who are by themselves just playing. Hey,
Plebs.
they're not plebs though.
The
thing is,
60% of MMO players who play solo, is that what you're talking about, Bard? The 60% of MMO players that end up playing MMOs like RPGs. Look at Elder Scrolls Online.
But you can leverage that as a guild. You can leverage
100%.
that. If you literally make your free or your node the most appealing node for that 60% of players who want to come in and develop a freehold, and you say, hey, we have fair trade, we'll give you a fair thing. Hey, if you need help, they're basically a part of the guild at that point. They just don't know they are.
Yeah.
And that's the whole node system, right? That's where Zillin was talking about nodes trumping the guild system. I agree with that to a degree, but certainly not. I think guilds will still trump the nodes, but you can use the node system to your advantage and you can foster this community. And I keep talking about this, but server health, server community is going to be one of the most important things in this game. It's going to be insane what you foster as a server, so if you're out there, yes, it's to your advantage to harass that person that's soloing and basically go out and kill them while they're harvesting materials. That is to your advantage. If they're not in your guild, you get materials. But that's the short-sightedness, right? That's the idea of you think you know what you're doing, but you have no idea, because if you actually let them just flood your center with all those resources, you use those resources to build everything up around you. That's where you're coming in and making your capital.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously there's the marketing side of it, right? You need to let people know that we're a guild, come to us, this is what we have here. But making sure that other players' enjoyment, and you see this a lot. I think ArcAge is one of the biggest examples of this, where everyone's goal in ArcAge was to just grief and harass the shit out of everyone else. Shocking turn of events that's not one of the most successful MMOs out on the market now, right? You wanted to, you went in to ruin someone's life. And I'm going to take the land from you. I'm going to make it so that you can't get any of this resource. Anytime you try to accomplish something, I'm going to shut you down. Is that challenging? Yes. And challenging things have value, right? That easy things don't have any value. Nobody loves the achievement that they get in the game for completing the tutorial. Nobody gives a shit about that achievement. It doesn't actually matter. But the things that are tough, that end game rating, the time that you downed that boss, I've done multiple server firsts in my MMO career. Those things mean something to me. Server first Spellslinger and Wildstar was very meaningful to me. Is it meaningful now? Yes. Even though the game's shut down, yes, it's still meaningful because I tried and I pushed for that, and it still means something. The easy things, don't have value. So you need to push the hard things, but you also need to allow the people that can only do the easy things access to the game. And I think, I think not my girlfriend, but real normal gamer girlfriends, they're going to end up loving. They will find a way to niche themselves into a game like Ashes of Creation.
Yeah. I mean, by the nature of how ambitious the project is in scale, it also does allow for so many different people. Like when I'm trying to sell Ashes, not sell, that's the wrong word. When I'm just trying to tell people about, like, genuinely
Promote.
trying to
Evangelize.
uh, like these are friends of mine that don't, like, my like IRL friends, some of which don't even play MMOs anymore, or people that I've just known for years from other MMOs. No, I don't talk like this a lot on the stream, but like I try to sell them because I've known them for years on like something I know they love. Like Albion had an animal husbandry system, but it was really limited. Ashes has the opportunity to possibly go way bigger into that. And I know that was your favorite thing about Albion, even though we only tried it out for like a really short time. And they're like, oh, really? Animal husbandry? So like when I know people, because Ashes has this broad scale there, and I love that. There is so many different things. And then I have some like really hardcore WoW raiders, and I want to say things to them like Steven's comment, like I want there to be some content that, I think his quote was like somewhere around 10%. Of that he wants of players to be able to ever accomplish, and that's the carrot on the stick. Like I'm probably not in the top 10% of players. I just want to be goofy and write songs. I'll probably never have a flying mount, and I kind of love that there's different content creators that will be part of it. That if you love my content, you should go watch them. They are part of the people that are killing legendary world bosses or doing the hardest level raids and dungeons, but it's not required. I think another thing that he did so well is the crafted gear being on par, so that like if you don't want to raid but you love crafting, like I can get somebody excited about Ashes in a genuine way through so many different avenues. And that's what on my stream some people call it Ready Player One. They're like, wait, you're just like Ashes is like the Oasis, and I'm like, well, what if it was someday? Like that, what I mean? That level of, if we that's one of my favorite books. We like really dig into the Ernest Cline novel. It's like the Oasis was so big that there's just like the internet, you can find your place on it. There's somewhere there. So you're right. We can get animal. I think we can. This is why another reason I think Ashes has a really. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think it could be really successful. Is that like Mythic Raiders from WoW and like my girlfriend that loves Animal Crossing could maybe find a home in Ashes together, and that's like pretty unique.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to point out, and we have talked about this already on stream, is I don't think this game is going to be that mythic level of rating. I don't think it's going to be that. Like, I just don't think without damage meters, with how they're developing the systems, with how they're developing everything, that we're going to have that super tight, crazy, min-max style of rating. I just don't see it. And the open world aspect and all that.
Yeah, Zillan. I remember when Zillan was on and I was listening to y'all.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I get what you're saying. I just want to make sure that like everyone understands that that's my understanding of the game.
Right.
And I also don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe the divine nodes will be this crazy intense, like whatever.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. It's like I should be more specific. Can I convince Mythic Raiders from WoW to play in their terms casually, but still be part of the top 10% of Ashes? That's even clearing the high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe like a little bit casual for you, but it'll still be better than most people can do.
But I think the thing is about it. Oh my goodness!
That
you
was
totally
about the most perfect thing that's ever happened on
yeah,
the stream.
You didn't set that up. That wasn't planned at all. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Fuck.
It's still going?
We're back. We're back.
Oh, the
We're back.
Are we back?
timer has reset. We were at 119, just so everyone knows.
Is
It's not back for me yet.
It's not back online, but it is 13 seconds in. They
Says
might be
it's
able to
back
hear us.
online. Says
They
it's back
might-
online. Wait. Still
Yeah, we're up.
streaming?
We're up.
Yeah.
We're up.
All right,
Sorry,
we're back up.
guys.
We're back up.
I've been having weird internet hiccups and I thought they were fixed, but I just got another one. This has been stopping me from uploading anything to YouTube because anytime this hiccup happens, everything breaks.
Bro, I told you the McDonald's Wi-Fi isn't enough. You got to get closer to the
I
Starbucks.
know, but the
If you
McDonald's food
supersize,
is so
they give you the better
good.
Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
right?
the
Don't you give you
McDonald's food
stronger
is just
Wi-Fi?
so good. Oh, sorry guys. Random hiccups. Also, perfect timing to disrupt Fane's fantastic.
I
God.
got one last thing though, is even though we might not have the PvE like hard focus and whatnot, we need to have monster coin leaderboards. So
Stop.
Yeah, yes, that's such a great idea. Oh my god. Like,
Have you guys noticed that Super has been more antagonistic since he stopped drinking on this
I-
podcast? I want to point that out for a second. Like,
You're
no,
not
Super's
wrong.
just a lot
I'm not
quieter.
wrong.
you're not wrong.
Super's a lot quieter because he sees all of us drinking and just interrupting him nonstop. That he's just like, I give up.
You know when you go out and you're the DD, and most people who like are willing to get drunk, but for whatever reason they can't, like they're either the DD or whatever, and they're just hanging around all their friends, and they're all like, oh my god, these guys are just a bunch of fucking idiots. Why do I hang out with them? And then you drink with them again, you're like, oh yeah, it's cool, we're all friends again. Like I need next week. Like, and then Fane and I will be all like, hey, what's up, buddy?
I just realized why Super disagreed with me. It just clicked for me.
What?
Super disagreed with me about the New World pushback because he pushed back his he was going to drink this week thing, and he doesn't want to be criticized for his pushback. Like last week was the beta, and then this is the pushback. Push it back, push it back, push it back, push it back.
Way back. No, yeah, Super. You're like the DD tonight. You're like, okay, guys, like corralling cats. Like, get back in the car.
No,
All right,
No,
I'll quit. No,
yeah,
not
I
our
want
car.
Super who
Not our
doesn't
car.
care about the tangents.
it's not our car. Other car. Other car.
I have done that before. I have definitely done that before.
I have like run to catch a bus and jumped onto the bus, and then it was the wrong bus.
Oh
A
no.
long story, and I was like, I don't know anybody here. It was like a bunch of like 7-year-old women on like a vacation trip together. I'm like, I'm on the wrong bus.
Like, I'm part of you now. I'm part of you. But I'll bring it back. If we're corralling cats, I'll bring it back a little bit. Let's bring it back to Ashes, guys. The game that we all know and love. I want to talk about something. So for those that don't know,
Push it back.
this last week's playtest was pushed back. No, it was just straight up canceled because of some DDoS attacks. Do you guys, I mean, it feels really late in the network side to me to still be getting DDoS attacks. I feel like that would be something that that they would have handled with AWS 9-12 months ago. What do you guys think?
It depends on the extent of it.
Yeah.
I think through development, and I'm not actually super knowledgeable here, so this is more just kind of what I've noticed more than anything. But I feel like a lot of like the bigger DDoS stuff, and to my understanding, it's also a little bit more than DDoS. Like there's actually some like bad actors like going in and like messing with things. And so I think what they're seeing is they're seeing more of what other games have seen later on in development because they have been behind closed doors. And so with Ashes being open, these people attacking are able to point and go, hey, look at that. I did that. Maybe not publicly, but like to their friends or to their group of, DDoSers or whatever. They could be, hey, look, we did that. That's awesome. Whereas with other games behind closed development, nobody knows. So I think it just kind of comes with the public light. And I think that they're actually approaching it sooner than we might suspect with other games. So I mean, I know we're talking about Ashes here, but like one of the benefits that New World has is they have the Amazon site infrastructure to learn from. Ashes doesn't have that. I mean, even though they're developers and they've taken the precautions, they've been working with security companies like internet, firewall security, all of that stuff. Like they don't have the same experience that Amazon might have with getting their site probably DDoSed on a regular basis, but they just handle it. Because they've been doing it for so long. Like it's just they know it's part of the thing. They know what to expect. But regardless of that, I think we might just be. I think it's actually happening sooner than it normally does, just because it's in the public space.
I think it's more than that. Think I think as we said earlier, they are competition to a lot of people, and
Yeah.
that is suddenly becoming a thing. They're
Get your
realizing
tinfoil
that.
hat.
Whoa,
What?
no,
It was
no,
right
I'm not. That's not even what I.
Is New World DDoSing Ashes?
Ooh, yeah. I mean AWS, no, but what
That's
I
why
was,
Bezos went into space. He was like, "It wasn't me. I was in space.
I
yeah.
wasn't even on the planet.
Well, how
But what
can you
I-
blame me for it?"
What I was
Oh.
gonna just say is like small companies that don't have much of a shall we want to say influence on the market, they don't get DDoSed. They just don't.
Yeah.
The fact that it's happening this early in development, like let's be real. If you got 100 versus 100 in New World happening, it was this laggy, disgusting mess for a game that's supposed to be released in a month. Well, now a month and 3 weeks. But like you saw it with streamers. Like even like medium-sized streamers where you'd have like 80 people all like around them within the town. I was watching Tim the Tap Man. I was looking around. I was like trying to count numbers. I was like, there's probably about 60 people around him right now. Maybe there are more in the local area or whatever. But he literally had like a 5-minute timer. Someone tried to trade him a blue item. And like he was like, I don't know, shit is lagging, whatever. We're gonna run out and do something else. And he runs out, does his thing, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, like 5 minutes later, he's like sees in the bottom right of his screen that blue item just pop up. Received blue item. Like, what the fuck? Like, Apps of Creation handles their servers handle numbers better than fucking New World. Who owns the
Absolutely.
fucking servers? Like, they own the servers and they can't handle this shit. And now we're looking at Ashes of Creation. And it's like, yeah, we can literally have 250 people in one node all trying to sign up for the same siege. Some of them get locked out of the siege because it gets filled up. And it's still like, it's not running great. Like, let's be real. It's not like, 60 FPS and everything is amazing, but it's running playable. Like,
And
Yeah.
I really I do want to go back to that I mean I don't know tinfoil hat but talking about the DDoS and what you brought up, it's in a way it is good for Ashes. Like if somebody was like, do you think Ashes is going to be successful? I'm like, well, during the month Q&A at the end, I don't know what the number got to. I saw it as high as 4,600 watching live. And I don't know if they broke 5,000, but they were right there, right? At least 4,600 that I like happen to remember glancing down and looking at. And then like right after that, they get DDoSed. So it's like, well, somebody thinks that they're a problem. Like that, not that they're a problem. Maybe they're just joking around. Maybe they're just like you said, just messing with their friends.
I mean,
but
it's
at least
a
there's
federal
massive
offense.
awareness.
That's
Yeah,
not
and there's
something you
massive
take
awareness
lightly.
of Ashes. And I actually think that is a really great thing. And I know this is a weird. I don't ever wish them to be DDoSed. But if they're gonna get DDoSed, I'm actually really glad it happened now.
Yeah,
When
they
the
can get
fewest
sorted
amount of
out.
people are in the game, and I'm like, great. It's like people were like, you gotta ban the multi-boxer, and because there was a multi-box running around, he had at least 4 people, and I was like, actually, I don't think you should. I mean, and I have my own take. Everybody, like some people are okay with multi-boxing. I'm much more of a Bard and an RPer, so I don't want to see multi-boxing. But I was like, don't ban them until like the end of beta 2. Like try to learn as much as you can and study and try to figure that out. And I was the same. Like if you're getting DDoSed, like that's not necessarily a bad thing right
Yeah.
now. Learn from it.
And so the multi-box, you're like, I mean, we've talked the DDoS
Yeah,
thing
I know
down.
you-
I think that's, unless anyone has anything final to say about the DDoS attacks and all that, I would actually like to address the multi-boxing thing. Um, and to me, so Steven has made it very clear in the past that multi-boxing is not allowed. Um, in terms of running multiple of the same Ash Secretion program on one computer. Is like if you have multiple computers, you're running multiple peripherals, you can multi-box, but you cannot run it all on the same machine with scripts that are running everything in the background for you. And that's what this guy was doing. So technically, that is already like, so we don't really have a terms of service. But that's against what Intrepid has said is allowed. So I am against what you said. I think they should shut it down right away, just to set the precedent. I think they need to set that precedent right away, immediately, because this is what they've said is the case with this game. The way you go about it, though, you don't just ban him. No, you reach out to him, you talk to him, you say, hey, you refund his other accounts and say, hey, this is something that we have said. This is not allowed. I get that this is what you like to do as a game player. You're welcome to do this on launch or now, as long as you have multiple machines, you're actually running the multiple keyboards and all of that. But we can't allow this because this is what we've said is okay, and this is the precedent. Or they need to go and do what you're saying and say, hey, this is for testing purposes only. I want you to put on your screen, this is for testing purposes only. I have been allowed to do this for this reason. This is against TOS. So it's one or the other to me.
Right. I agree with you. Yeah. It's not that you're right. I don't want him. Yeah. I don't want others to feel comfortable. You're right. And it is a PR thing too. Fane, you've talked a lot about PR and the PR side of things as well. And I like thinking that way because you're right. You don't want it to be a thing where it's like, wait, you're just going to let multi-boxers in? So you're right. And I've wanted to talk to the guy. Like, I actually would love to. I'd like to just talk to him on the stream.
Yeah.
In a way that's like, listen, you got to explain some things, because I've actually asked questions and been in his chat. And what I've asked him is like the difference, and he will go in depth. And I'm not a multi-boxer, so I don't know the details, but he will talk about software versus hardware. He is saying that he's using, I haven't seen, I'd have to be in the room and then watch and then learn on the hardware side of things. But he's essentially claiming that he has 4 separate computers and that he's using a unique hardware system that he's created that technically goes around the TOS. My response to that would be, Steven, you run the show. How about you just elaborate on the TOS then?
Yeah.
That would be my example, right? He can change the TOS to include both software and hardware.
Which I get what he's saying. Like, I have, most of us have 2 hard drives within, a solid state drive and a regular drive within our computers. We have, I've got 2 graphics cards in my computer. Could I technically multi-box out of one computer? It's being run. I mean, what's the difference if it's sitting here or sitting in a different box over here? If I just run 2 keyboards, could I do that? Would that be allowed? I mean, these are the questions. We really have to get down to the nitty gritty because people are always trying to take advantage.
Yep.
How important is that in an alpha? Not super important. I think reaching out to someone like that and saying, hey, that's super cool. Show us how you're doing it. Yeah. Figuring out how they're doing it and then saying, great, thumbs up, pat on the back. And then when the game launches, being like, that's against TOS. Literally figuring out how people are breaking the game and structuring your TOS around that.
The other interesting thing is on launch, that's not going to work. People are just going to see those 5 players as easy loot, right? You get 5 actual players together to gank his 5 people. Like, unless he's just somehow amazing at PvP, you're literally like, you're going to have different things going on. You're going to have different buffs. You're going to have the whole cloud, the 8 different archetypes. If he's running 5 systems and you have 5 different archetypes that are all playing different roles, you just wipe him and take like 20% of his loot. And then he has to scramble to get everyone back together and get all his bots like working together. Like, this is not like other games where you just run around all free and carefree. No, if you're doing this and abusing it, you need to be integrated with some kind of community or you're going to get farmed.
Yeah. Ashes is not a good game to multi-box. Like
No.
like there are other games that are way easier to do it, but you're right. Like this game's like people would just be like, I don't care, I'll take corruption. Like you know what I mean? I'll just attack this person. Yeah. And the fact that you
Yeah.
can, like, you ever see like Asmongold streams when he like can't attack all the multi-boxers and he's just staring there, and he asks everybody to come out, and then everybody tries to ban him. Imagine you played in a game where Asmongold was just like, I want 100 people here right now. I don't care if you get corruption, kill those people.
Well,
You know
yeah,
what I
if you
mean?
just
Yeah.
if you just swap off corruption, it's not that much corruption. And then once
Yeah.
again, well, if we want to get into the corruption system, that's a whole nother issue, right? Because there's plenty of times you're going to be able to gain corruption, but your guild is going to be backing you and it's not going to matter. Like you're going to be like, I got corruption. Okay, cool. I got corruption, but I also got their loot. Now I'm going to run off and grind out mobs till my corruption is gone.
I got
Boom,
corruption.
done.
Come at me.
There's the community can help with taking care of the multi-boxers. And to what you were saying 10 minutes, like it's not a great game to be doing that in, because some of the stuff that you would actually want to multi-box for, the rare spawn resources, the rare mobs that aren't going to just be in one spot every day at a certain time or on a 15-minute respawn timer or something like that. Like, and of course there's going to be like AoE farm type stuff. I mean, I know exactly the video you're talking about with Asmon, all the Moonkins walking around in the circle doing their thing. Like that type of stuff might still exist. And that's where the community can help out with that. But when it comes to like farming like rare resources and stuff like that, we don't know where the resources are going to spawn, and where they spawn one day, supposedly from what Steven has said and Intrepid has talked about, is that it's not going to spawn in the exact same place. Just because it spawned in node A at location XYZ on server 1, server 2 might have it spawn in node Q in location XYZ. Like, and so there's no way of like tracking that. So that in and of itself, I think, is a kind of a built-in anti-bot thing. But I think the primary thing is looking at it and going, yeah, screw this guy. Like, I'll eat this corruption, because again, like a little bit with what they've said about the corruption system, a little bit of corruption isn't going to be the end of the world. You'll be able to work that off pretty quickly. Like, you'll get back to your gameplay. Now, if you're walking around and PKing nonstop, that's where the corruption system.
Or PKing lobies.
Right, exactly. Yeah. They've mentioned something about like a scaling difference. You know, if you're, killing a 50 when you're 50 is different than killing a level 5 when you're 50. Right. So it's just, Ashes is in a very unique place. We were talking about this in the Virtue Discord, because it's in a game like WoW, it's unavoidable. The devs are the only people who can take care of it. In a game like New World, it's unavoidable. The devs are the only people who can take care of it. Because if they just flag for, if you have the option to turn PvP off, guess what? All the multi-boxers are going to turn PvP off. So they don't have to worry about it. But in a game like Ashes, it's a free-for-all. And maybe your corruption's a little bit too high. Okay, well, I'm calling Grumpy Guy, who doesn't give a shit about its corruption. He's going to come out and wax him. Like, you're gonna have people like that in every guild. You're gonna have people who are hardcore PvP, or you find the guy with the least amount of corruption in your guild, and you say, "Hey, come take care of this guy. Like, screw this guy. He's farming our spot, and he's a bot." Like,
yeah, community driven. Like we've talked about building community now and everything that everyone's doing, but like community driven in game, creating so many unique examples, and absolutely multi-boxing is one of them. And that's what I would say to him. Like there are other games you could go to. Like there really are. Like that's like that we've seen don't even sometimes seem to really care. So you could have I want you to have a wonderful MMO experience. It's just this is going to be a very specific one, and it is going to be very hard for you to exist in.
Well, it also reflects into real life as well. I mean, we want everybody to have a good life. Like at a basic level, I think most people would say that, like, yeah, I want 10 men. I want you to have a good stream. I want you to have a good life. But I tell you what, if your good life starts impeding on my good life, like now you're kind of fucked up. Like, so and I think that's where the multi-box thing comes in, because now they are preventing somebody else from having a good game experience. Well, so just because that's how you enjoy the game, it doesn't make it right.
There's
a fine line there for sure.
Yeah. But here's my one issue where I see multi-boxing being very profitable and taking off, and that's from the freehold aspect. So one freehold per account, period. And now suddenly you have 5 freeholds per account. And then just like taking it back and looking at the garrison system from WoW. People were running like 5 accounts during Warlords of Draenor for the garrison system. They to this day have like 800 million gold. Like I myself made like 30 million gold from garrisons and freeholds or garrisons during that time. Like, so I am a little concerned, and there's nothing I can say on this at the moment because we have no idea how the freehold system is actually going to work, how processing is going to work. I mean, obviously, there's going to have to be some kind of time gating where you're waiting for things to process. So that's where I'm worried about botting or multi-boxing becoming something that's very profitable, and also if it's a freehold thing. How do you monitor someone who's botting? It's
Well, and just going down the rabbit hole a little bit further with the freehold, you also have the marriage system. So you might have, you might funnel one of the bots to set up a freehold, but that bot is now married to this bot, and they can access the freehold, and then those two can ask. So like it becomes exponentially worse because of how these other interactions work as well. Like I 100% agree with what you're saying.
It's not just marriage; it's just permissions in general. Like marriage, but also like you can just give permissions on your freehold to anyone you want. So how's that all going to work out? And this is why this game, I think Steven somewhat understood what he was doing when he said this is going to be a community developed project. This is going to be open development, because I think he understood how complex this game was going to be, to the point that he actually needs the community to develop it. He needs people to test these systems out on a nonstop basis and give feedback and say, no, this is broken. No, this isn't working. Here's my thought. Here's this. Like, this game is so in-depth and complex that you need a community to develop it.
So two things, and one of them is they connect off each other here. Talking about the community feedback, the most recent live stream, we haven't really touched on it. The combat changes, or the ability to test a proposed combat change. I think that's it's not an official combat change; it's a test for a potential combat change. That, and we have a new monthly cosmetic pack, and we got to play the game of what is super buy-in. But first the combat changes. For me, seeing Steven, so when I was watching the live stream and Steven came out and said, here is what we are doing, and he gave his spiel, like, we're going to allow players the option to hit a button, it'll take them into this alternate action combat mode and allow them to test this so we can get feedback on it. I literally messaged in our little Fane Bard super group chat, I'm like, look at Steven out here making me eat my words, and I love it. Like, because I have been criticizing the combat from the standpoint of this is not going to be capable of being anything but a tab target game based on what they have established so far. And he addressed that by this big potential change coming in, because to me, this feels much more action combat than the previous iteration was. And also, I don't know how much of our stuff, I know he watches a lot of stuff, but it felt very direct, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to have given this feedback.
But that's also not the first time he has directly said something after we
said, like, we wish we had patch notes, and then the very next patch, there were patch notes up. That was
not the next patch, the next day.
The next day.
Yeah. So, but I was saying something about
Hey, Steven.
Hey, Steven.
That even
big dick sending.
Hey, Steven, TCG, I need those first edition booster boxes. Yeah, that me. I need those. Yeah.
We're just gonna say that every week.
Yeah, every week till he gives it to us.
Tell it happens every week.
But like one of my points of criticism with what I was saying with the tab targeting thing is even the NPCs are tab target. Like the way that they operate as tab target, they're not even operating in action combat. And so everything was showing me tab targeting. And so, and I also said, I was like, we need to know the direction that this combat is going, because as Steven has said, as almost everybody in the community has said, the combat in a game will make or break the game, regardless of how important it is to Fane individually, Bard, Tenman, myself individually. If it's bad, it's not going to be a game that people play very long, because it's just PETA.
Yeah.
No, not
So
kind of upset.
I mean, for me, like maybe I'm getting too big in the head here, but if that was in response to me, good on you, Steven. Make me eat my words day in and day out, please. Like, I am only trying to help this game get better. I will criticize you if I see criticism, and if you make me eat my words on it, I'm more than happy to do so. I'm a hungry boy, so go for it. But the actual combat change itself, for those of you who have seen it, I mean, just a very simple question. Don't go in depth here. We're gonna rapid fire this here real quick. The removal of the root and complete player control. 10 men, yay or nay?
Yeah. More player agency always in every mechanic that you build in the game.
Yeah, 100%. Fully support it, love it.
I'm kind of right in the middle. I think full player root is fine with a strong DR. I think you need to be able to, I mean, definitely dismount people or kill their mounts or whatever. Yeah, I think hard CC is okay. It just needs to have pretty serious DRs.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things, and I mean, I know comparing, apples to fucking turkeys over here by saying Ashes to New World. But it's one of the things about New World that feels really great is the combat. And I think what I noticed when I was watching the video of Ashes showing off the proposed change to combat was that New World found, I think, kind of this weird, sweet, not necessarily middle ground, but it feels as though, comparing Ashes having played it and then New World having played it, it feels as though Ashes, though you might have faster animations, you almost feel slower. Like, I almost felt faster wielding a great axe in New World than I did anything in action combat melee and in Ashes, which is weird because I visibly can see that the animations are faster, but there was something about the feeling of it. So I don't know if it's one or the other, no root, get rid of it. Let me do what I want with my character 100% of the time. I'm all for it. But if we're going for a middle ground, I don't know if New World landed directly on it, but I think that they have done something well there. They're like, and I've heard from other people as well that the action combat is fun, but that's also a pure action combat game.
Yeah.
Like I said, apples to turkeys over here, right?
That's
like,
that's also the only spot that New World has risk versus reward is their combat. You have to take a risk in when you use your abilities, and you get rewarded if you use it well. And that's the thing. So the great axe, like casting that rift that pulls people in, I've seen those just whiff, and I've seen those just be like, oh god, we're all fucked. Like, so it's literally that aspect of risk versus reward. And I bitched and moaned about how there is no risk versus reward in New World. And that's I just now thought about it. I was like, okay, well, actually, combat is the only place I've seen that. And I think that's something that's a little bit missing from Ashes right now. I mean, even like throwing out a chain pull if you're a tank and a ball, like you just throw the chain pull back out. If you hit it, you kill someone. If you don't, you just rotate back into the ball. You're just doing like the constant ball rotation of like your standard, group big ball PvP or whatever, there at the moment it doesn't feel like there are big things that are risky or rewarding. Everything seems to do about the same amount of damage regardless of what you do.
Quick question too. I don't know a lot about the technical side of game development, but I thought we were going to get like we had one and we were going to get to test the other. And then he was like, in the same build, you'll be able to test both. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then I thought to myself, like, if you can test two in the same build and different people want different things, is it possible to have both at launch? Not that that's what we
Um,
want. Is it
well,
possible?
I talked about this in my video about combat. I was like, we'll give it the option where if you do choose the action locking step forward auto attack, you get a bonus.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, now that we know we can have both, yeah. I mean, they just like I play a different way. Like you can like some people like play like really scroll back, and some people prefer to be like right behind their character. I was like, oh, like I guess you. I always want more player agency. I want the game to be developed and
Yeah.
then just give it to us. That's why I'm so excited. Steven's
Well,
like, here you go. Here's everything.
well,
You
here's
need
the
a
thing.
baseline somewhere though.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
you
but
do
why?
need a baseline to build on.
Also, why even have the option if everyone just chooses the free action, right? Because why wouldn't you choose the free action? Why would you ever choose the animation locking step forward? Unless
Right.
there's some benefit.
Or
Which
unless
is
it
what
just
which
feels
is what they're
better to you.
trying. Sorry,
Right.
go ahead,
Unless
Fane.
it feels, I mean, unless it feels better, right? Because that's the one thing that I think everybody that I've ever asked this question to comes to is what makes a good combat system. We talked about this ad nauseum.
Nobody
It's
knows.
just a feeling. It's a feeling. When I swing the great axe, it feels impactful. Is that animation? Is that timing? Is that just the system itself? It's hard to pinpoint what that thing is, but when it's there, you know it's there, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe to somebody, that
Yeah.
weird fucking dance that you do, where honestly, if you held down your auto attack, you'd probably run faster than sprinting because you're just moving right down the road. Maybe that feels good to somebody. Maybe that does feel good. It feels good in certain games. It feels good in ARPGs. It feels great in ARPGs, but probably not in Ashes for me personally.
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to do it either. And Bartik, you're right. Like, I don't think most people would want to do it. But if it was like this 5 to 10% very vocal minority, but then they were just super happy and they had it, they'd be like, awesome. I guess you can have it. If it did, right. I know, and I like the idea. Like one of the most unique systems is the like 50 people in a guild, and you have more mechanics that you're more augmentations you can use. And then if you have 300, you have less. Like that's like if you like, I do like that idea as well, Bartik. Like I guess if I want to go out of my way to play this thing that's like very different, I have some different augmentation, or I gain some bonus or different. I don't even know if you didn't go that far, but I was just thinking, and I again, this is new. This is truly a new thought live, but it was like,
That's what we
could just have-
specialize in.
yeah, I know. What if we could just have both at the same time? And I want to like theory craft down that rabbit hole, not like necessarily right now, but just in general. And I wonder how many people, because it was like such a big deal in APOC. It was like, we got to have it. And like, all right, we give it to you. And then like all the MMO players were like, whoa, 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 I have no control. So maybe it would just be like, maybe people like us, like as a whole, like we don't want it, but maybe younger gamers or gamers coming from Fortnite are like, I love it. And they're like, all right, here you go, I guess.
Well, it's interesting what Fane said, and it's that idea that basically maybe it feels better to not have a super floaty combat, right? Have it be very impactful when you do an auto attack and you do get animation locked and you step forward. And it's not a floaty combat. So maybe it does feel better. Unfortunately, I'm a little worried that, I mean, we're not real, like, maybe we can come together as a community and portray that and say, hey, this is what we'd rather have. But I think most people are just going to go with what is the most powerful for them. So if they are battling someone who is animation locked and they're not, it's going to be stronger. And they're going to say, oh, I like this better. Without that realization of, well, it's one or the other, right? If everyone is animation locked, then you have to choose, versus if everyone has this floaty combat, what do you want, one or the other? And that's the issue with, I guess, putting it in this same build, right? Where you can toggle between the two. You're going to like, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing. Like when they nerfed tanks and tanks sucked, right on that month-long launch, and I was just like, clerics are strong, mages are strong, tanks just can't hold aggro, they can't do damage, they don't even survive that well. Like they don't really do anything that well. Like I was like, oh man, I've been playing tank ever since, and they were powerful, and I was like, oh, tanks suddenly suck. And I am trying to get out of my own head and like look at it realistically. Okay, well maybe if the tank's holding aggro, or if the tank is what we're talking about, where it's like a combination of tank and fighter, and I'm going to get a bunch more DRs or abilities to actually tank stuff, then it changes the abilities and all that. But like, it's gamers are not long-sighted. They don't look at these things that often. They're very much just like, what's most powerful? What feels best right now? And if you're fighting someone who's animation locked, and even if it is the floaty combat style that isn't that good overall, it's more powerful than the animation lock, and you're like, that's what I like.
I want to be able to pick up a game and not feel like I need to go find out what the most broken build is and then play that first. Um, I mean, I know we're I mean, mainly me, but going back to New World here, like that's one of the things that I enjoy about that. And I know that Ashes, well, I mean, hopefully they kind of stole it. So I hope Ashes is able to replicate it because they were kind of the initial ones to want to do it. But I want to be able to pick up Ashes and go, this is how I want to level. This is how I want to play. This is what I want to do based on what I feel as a gamer. Like if I like tanking, I want to go tank, and I want to go the flavor of tank that I want to go. Like if I want to go tank mage for whatever stupid reason, then I can do that. Like if that's what I want to do. Or if I want to go take cleric because I want to be able to bring a little bit more heals to to myself. So maybe I can carry a shittier healer or something like that. I can do that. So like, I mean, talking about like the agency, that's where I think that stuff is important. But when it comes to the combat, they're already trying to implement a action versus tab. So if we're trying to do an action versus tab, like I feel like we're just now adding in too much agency. Like we're listening too much to the community at that point. Like it's like we need to baseline somewhere. And I already think
you have to draw the line at a point. Right. You can't have 1,000 different.
Right. You will never please everybody. And if you try to, you will make a shitty game.
Steven has talked very much about. Go ahead, Tim, man.
Right. Oh, I just said, or your game will never come out because you spent so much time trying to develop it or change.
How dare you talk about Star Citizen that way? How dare you guys? Unbelievable.
I'm so glad I didn't invest in that game.
Me too, let me tell you.
But what I was going to say is like Steven has talked so much about feature creep, but combat is like one of those, right? And at a certain point,
of the feature.
Yeah, at a certain, but it seems like it's not, right? Like when you're talking about Star Citizen, the combat wasn't something they added shit into. They weren't like, here's the feature creep from Star Citizen here. It was just like, no, the feature creep came with all these external systems, then had to integrate into this internal system. So it's all about finding a balance. And at a certain point, they just need to say, here's where we're going. And as I have said, and I'm biased, if they're going to make a cut, if they're going to make a change in terms of combat, I say just go tab target, call it good. Yeah. This game has enough going on. We're still going to be so interested and involved that we don't need this side of action combat. Hey, if you can do it relatively easily and like do iterative changes until it feels good while you're developing the rest of stuff, just have one team focused on that, great. But if this is holding you back, if it's not feeling good, like just go to the diehard, true hard tab target. No one's going to complain. Like people still love the game.
Yeah. I would much rather and I think a lot of people are at this point now, like you have so many incredible ideas. We love your culture, your philosophy as a company. Like just at this point, like let's get the game out. Let's head directly in that. And if that means dropping action, there maybe we lose some people, of course. But you're right. There has to be there has to be a time where we have to be like, hey, like this is what we're doing, and this is the TOS, and this is this mechanic. And that's the only way. Even though we listen as much as we can't listen to everyone, or we'll be listening somewhat indefinitely in a cycle. Yeah.
And what I was going to say is I think that's a good conclusion. We're running out of time here. And as per usual, our 2 hours just fly by. It was an absolute blast. Loved having you all on. Um, let's do our usual outros, and we will start with the regulars. So it's Fame.
Guys, you know all the drill. It's Spain.com. Go over there, follow me. We're posting YouTube 3 times a week. We're doing Twitch 3 times a week. Get over there, hang out.
Right, super.
Super TCG here on Twitch. Actually just got a full box of booster boxes for the new set of Evolving Skies. So that will be coming out. We'll have about 250 some odd packs to open for that. So look forward to the pack battles that I swear to God I will beat you one day, Bard. And and then also we got celebrations coming up pretty quickly on the other end of that. Well, I was going to mention New World stuff, but that's pushed back. So I'll mention it a couple weeks from now. And then as I always shout out, please go over to the two guys in a Bard YouTube, show that some love. Once Bard finds the right fast food chain to get his Wi-Fi from, we'll get some YouTube videos uploaded. And no,
Yeah.
I'm joking, of course. You're fine, man.
Yeah, no, we're a little behind.
Go check it out. Go check it out. Go sub over there. Honestly, like I know it might seem like I'm a little biased here, but like even when I go back and watch through our stuff, whether it be a clip or a full episode, like I enjoy it. Like, which is that might seem kind of narcissistic a little bit, I guess, but like I don't like my own content half the time. So if there's something that I'm in that I watch and I like it, like I feel like it's actually doing pretty good. So please go check it out. Check out the past episodes.
And 10 Man.
Yeah, first I want to say, y'all, like I look up to y'all. You've been here longer than I have, and I'm watching your content, and I just really am so grateful to be so welcomed by this community. I love y'all. I love being here. And yeah, twitch.tv/10man, and then I'm also 10 Man on YouTube as I try to figure that out. I still have quite a lot to learn there as well. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and definitely reach out to us. We're always happy to collab, to give advice, to help out where we can, and we'll obviously do the same. You guys, I'm Bardic. You're on my channel. If you enjoyed tonight's show, definitely drop a follow. Go check out my YouTube channel. I've been working a shitload the last couple weeks. Shout out for my own channel. As usual. I've been working a lot, the like real life work, like 12 hours a day, the last few weeks. But that's also so I can take time off when I want to. I'm hoping we're gonna have a big patch tomorrow, so I've got about 3 or 4 days off starting tomorrow. Gonna do that, and then as per usual, after this show, I'm gonna go pour myself another drink, and we're gonna have about a 5 to 10 minute debrief in the private channel in my Discord here. Which is, it's just us discussing the show. We like to ask our guests anything we can do better, anything like that. So it's just a little bit of that. It's about 5 to 10 minutes. And then we're going to pop up into the general channel. And we encourage all of you to come hang out, come chat. If you want to say anything about tonight, bring up any topics of conversation. We just have a good time, drink a little more, hang out, have a good time, super informal. But it's just a chance for us to get to know you all better. But anyway, I'm going to toss a raid out here to Kazobro, who is a good guy, and he will be streaming Ashes on release. Right now he's streaming Stream Raiders, but he is a good guy, and definitely go over there, show him some love, hang out with him. He's a really fun, really entertaining guy, super high energy like all of us as well. So yeah, I appreciate you all. And as I said, anytime we raid someone, I love the person if I'm raiding them for the most part. I very, very rarely raid someone I don't know, and I'm there for them. And obviously we'll spread the love within the community as well. So anyway, thank you all. We'll see you all in just a couple minutes in our Discord.
Peace.
Later, guys.